Aloha guys, Dr. Tom is coming at you again. Today we're going to talk about the muscular system. There's a lot of stuff. We'll do the best we can on it. Okay, there are three kinds of muscle tissue in the human body. Skeletal muscle that we're all familiar with. Smooth muscle that line our intestines and respiratory tract and all. And cardiac muscle, which is only found in the heart. We mentioned this briefly when we were talking about tissues. Of these, only skeletal muscle is considered voluntary. Means we can move it at will. Also, smooth muscle is not striated, or voluntary or skeletal muscle, which is interchangeable, or cardiac is both striated. Okay, muscles are very complex. They're made of bundles that are wrapped together and wrapped into bigger bundles and bigger and bigger. The connective tissue that wraps around muscles is called fascia, or you'll often see it called myofascia. Myo, of course, means muscle. There's endomysium, which is around the tiniest little bundles in the cells. Paramysium, para means around, is the fascia that's on a little bit bigger bundles, and then epimysium is the fascia that wraps around entire muscles. These bundles are called fascicles. Tendons are connective tissue structures that connect muscle to bone. Tendons connect muscle to bone. Do you need to know that? Anytime you see me lean forward and stare into the camera, you need to know it. Muscles form attaches by the tendon attaching the muscle to the bone, or in some instances, muscles attach directly to the bone or the soft tissue. And we have sheets of muscle called aponeurosis, like here, that connect muscle to muscle or muscle to bone. Okay, a single myofibril is a muscle cell. And the muscles have a lot of specific terms to them. Like instead of having an endoplasmic reticulum like other cells, they have a sarcoplasmic reticulum. Instead of having a cell membrane, they have a sarcolemma and a T-tubule system. What all this is, guys, is ways to, all part of what makes muscles contract. And that's what they do. Muscles contract. They don't push. They get smaller and they get thicker. Here we can see the little tiny fascicles, and they're bundled together to make a larger fascicle, and then larger fascicles are bundled together to make a whole muscle. So, is it complex? Oh yeah, very complex. Of course, you could say the same thing about almost anything in the body. Sarcomeres. Okay, we're going to hit this quick, guys. Try to catch the high points of it. Basically, we have these Z lines. And you can actually see these in muscle. And these thin and thick filaments, these actin and myosin filaments, act like little gears or ratchets. So when the muscle is stimulated by a nerve, they go and pull it down and make it shorter. They bring the Z lines together from here to like so. Now this picture here, see, here's a relaxed sarcomere. Here's a contracted sarcomere. There's not much difference. I wish for the sake of the picture they'd have made it really obvious, but they didn't. So the actin and myosin are like little gears, ratchets, and they draw this, and they draw the Z lines closer together. And when that happens, what you're having is a muscle contraction. Sliding filament mechanism. Myosin head makes contact with actin. Myosin head rotates. Actin is pulled off the center of the sarcomere. Sarcomere shortens. Bingo, muscle contraction. Now, guys, this is a good bit more complicated than what we're learning right here, but this is good for our purpose. Now, surprisingly, calcium is what makes all this happen, the mineral calcium. The role of calcium and ATP. Calcium is stored away from thin and thick filaments in the sarcoplasmic reticulum. When stimulated, the SR releases the calcium. Calcium allows actin, myosin, and ATP, the energy, adenosine, to interact, causing muscle contraction. Why do muscles relax? Because calcium returns to the sarcoplasmic reticulum. Calcium is the key to the whole thing, guys. It's like a lock fitting in a key. When the calcium ions go in there, it allows this actin and myosin to. So besides being in the bone and all, calcium is extremely important for muscle. Okay, somatic motor neurons. Somatic means body. Somatic means body. Motor neurons are nerve cells that cause muscular contraction. Just think of the motor of a car or a motorcycle or a boat. Motor means nerves that make things move. Most of the times that's muscle, but it can also be glands secreting as well. Somatic motor nerve supplies skeletal muscle. They emerge from the spinal cord, out. There's 31 pair of spinal nerves and go to the skeletal muscle. Let's see what this says. This is complicated. The electrical signal nerve impulse travels down the nerve to the terminal end, cause release of neurotransmitter. Now we haven't talked about what all this stuff is. I'm sorry, guys. A motor unit is a single muscle fiber. No, it's not. They're telling it wrong here. The motor unit is the nerve and all the muscle fibers that nerve innervates and controls. Now, a single muscle fiber has an all or nothing response. It either contracts or it don't. That's a single muscle fiber or cell. However, within a muscle, the entire muscle can have an infinite number of degrees of contraction, which gives us the ability to do all this fine motor stuff. But a whole muscle can vary its force of contraction. So an individual fiber is all or nothing. It either contracts, bam, or it don't. But the muscle itself, with many other fibers, can vary that. Two characteristics the whole muscle allows this. Motor unit, again, a motor unit is the nerve, the specific somatic nerve, and all the muscle fibers that particular nerve innervates. Recruitment is if you need to pick up something heavy, other muscles will be brought into it and recruited, like you recruit for the Marine Corps. Innervation of skeletal muscle. Here shows a motor neuron coming off the spinal cord. Again, motor means move, so just think of it like that. When motor nerves cause muscles to contract and glands to secrete. Here's the muscle. Here's all the little bundles. See, this particular nerve, now this is a good example here of a motor unit. Comes here and it innervates here, here, and here. So these fibers, and that is considered the motor unit. The motor unit. And these are muscle cell fibers or individual cells. And in their bundle, here's fascia. They're bundled into big bundles, and there's fascia wrapped around that, which they're not showing here. Okay, now I know if in case it's not complex enough for you, let's make it a little more complex. Now, in addition to the nerve signal, there are chemicals called neurotransmitters at work. Because here's the nerve, here's the muscle, there's a gap there. And that gap is called a synapse. Do I see the word anywhere? Not right offhand. So the nerve signal comes down. See these little sacks of chemicals? It makes them release. They float across and attach to target cells on the muscle. In muscles, as you were in muscles, there are many different neurotransmitters. The one that works in muscle is called acetylcholine. Acetylcholine, where's it at? That's not it. It's abbreviated like this. So the secretion of acetylcholine makes muscles contract. But we can't walk around all day with contracted muscles, guys. So there's an enzyme called acetylcholinesterase. Remember, if it ends in ASC, it's an enzyme that causes it to relax. And that's what these little Pac-Man looking things are. So it's an incredibly complicated, delicate balance. Okay, neuron stimulation causes an electrical impulse to move to the neuron's end. Vesicles move forward and fuse with the membrane. Acetylcholine diffuses and binds to muscle membrane receptor sites on the other side of the synapse. Acetylcholine stimulates receptors, causing an electrical impulse and making the muscles go boing. There are a number of things that can impair the neuromuscular junction, the synapse. There's one disease called myasthenia gravis. Curare, used by South American Indians, will paralyze you. And there's neurotoxins like the tetanus bacterium or botulism. Botox. Botox is developed from something, guys, that's deadly poisonous, but it makes muscles relax, see? So it makes them wrinkles on them people temporarily. Okay, moving along. We've got to move quick here. This just shows those three things we talked about. The bottom line is, guys, that these neuromuscular junctions are real important. A twitch, a single muscle response in which the muscle contracts and then fully relaxes. Twitch, twitch, twitch. Tetanus, sustained muscle contraction caused by repeated stimulation. In other words, going into a lock, cramp, so to speak. And then tonus is the name for normal continuous states of partial muscular contraction. We have certain postural muscles in our body, guys, that have a certain amount of tonus all the time, like in the back, that keep us standing up or keep our head erect and so forth. So, okay, where do we get energy for muscle contraction? Well, it's the same place we get energy everywhere else. The mitochondria produce ATP, but also, let's see, vitamin, creatinine, phosphate. Glycolysis is anaerobic metabolism. We talked about that in chemistry a little bit, anaerobic. So, it's the same thing. Okay. An origin, here's the biceps brachii, the biceps muscle in the arm, the one when you make a muscle up. They originate from somewhere, and that's called the origin. They insert somewhere. And then, for example, the biceps flexes the elbow joint. The triceps in the back extends the elbow joint. Remember, flexion and extension. So these two muscles work in pairs with each other. Prime mover is the main mover of that joint. Synergist, antagonist. Synergist is like the biceps. Antagonist is like the triceps. Okay, muscle overuse and underuse. Hypertrophy, growth in response to overuse, like a bodybuilder. Atrophy, wasting away. You can have disuse atrophy from being a couch potato or being medically impaired where you can't get around. Innervation atrophy due to some kind of a problem with the innervation of the nerves. Senile atrophy, being so old, everything's going away. Contracture, abnormal fibrous formation of muscle that freezes in flexed position. Yeah, you can get contractures in your muscle, because I'd say probably more common in older people. That kind of freeze up, they'll stay contracted. Now that's not quite the same as a muscle spasm, sort of, except contractures last long periods of time or indefinitely if they're not treated. Skeletal muscles can be named to their size, like your butt muscle, gluteus maximus, because it's big. The shape, trapezius, is shaped like a trapezoid. The orientation of the fibers, rectus abdominis, is the six-pack muscles that run up and down. Pectoralis, location, the pecs here. Number of origins, biceps has 2 origins, so it's the bi 2. Origin insertion, like these big muscles on the neck, are called the sternocleidomastoids, but fortunately everybody calls them the SCMs. Or the muscle action adductors, remember, bring it towards the midline. The D's facing the A. Okay. Well, we might as well go over it. It's hard to see this, guys. I can barely see it. Let's see. But let's just go over what we can. Here's the frontalis muscle. We'll go over the facial muscles here in a moment separately. Here's the SCM, sternocleidomastoid. Here's the pecs. The deltoid, biceps, triceps on the back. This big forearm muscle is called brachioradialis. The abdominal area has 4 layers of muscle. The outermost is rectus abdominis. Here's your 6-pack muscle. I guess I've got one. I've never been able to see it. Actually, in the army, I had a little bit of 6-pack going on. Let's see. Here's the quadriceps. There are 4 separate muscles. I'm watching my time because I'm about to run out. Rectus femoris, vastus lateralis, medius, and intermedius. Tibialis anterior. The calf muscle is called the gastrocnemius. Here's the hamstrings. We'll pick back up with the hamstrings when we come back. All right. Join me in the next one. This is Dr. Tom signing off. See you then.